Good evening. Today is Thursday, October 6, 2022. The time is 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting of the City of Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, please silence your electronic devices. And if everybody would stand, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Roll call. Judy, would you conduct roll call, please?
Ken Dorlich.
Present.
Jamie Humbert.
Present.
Darrell Foley.
Here.
Darren Burkhart.
Here.
David Weigel.
Present.
Mark Bauer.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is to approve our minutes of our September 1st, 2022 meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. Next item on the agenda is old business. Mr. May, city engineer, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I really don't have anything to report to you. I had hoped to be able to talk to the developer today, and it didn't happen. I do believe they are working on the subdivision plans and the infrastructure improvement plans, and that we're moving forward. As I think we discussed last month, they are hoping to get the planning process done this winter, get their plans together and approved, and when weather is appropriate next spring, be in a position to start constructing infrastructure, and then as soon thereafter move on to building homes.
Survey been done?
They have at least part of the topographic survey complete. I'm not sure it's 100% complete, but you weren't here last month.
No, I wasn't, sorry.
That's all right. One of the things they have indicated, without being absolutely a final answer, they've concluded that the sanitary sewer will require a lift station. While there is some fall across the property, it's generally flat enough that they can't maintain sewer grade and depth, and because of their outlet point on the west end, they said they'd be like 4 foot out the ground on the east end to do it all gravity. So.
We have our agreement all.
Yes, everything's fine except that your signature needs to be attested to, and I did some research, and I believe that Darrell is the secretary, the commission secretary for this year, so if he would be good enough to sign that, and if Kristen, who notarized it's good enough to go with that, that will clean that up.
Okay. That's why that's in the packet.
That's why it was in the packet. We just didn't happen to sign that last month. Any other questions?
How did they get that, the roadway resurfaced?
The damaged area has been repaired,
Okay,
both concrete and asphalt.
thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to new business. First item is Kristen Williams, City Communications Director.
Sign here as the secretary.
Okay, good evening, board. I am before you tonight to share that we will be hosting the ribbon cutting on Pirate Park. Very, very exciting. You'll be getting an email copy of the invitation tomorrow, but I am here to ask if a member of the RDC would be willing to give a few words at the ceremony. It is October 19th at 10 a.m. At Pirate Park at the building that we are calling the Pavilion, right there along the side of the park. The comments that we are asking from the RDC be only a few minutes. We're hoping to be done within a 40-minute time frame because we do have some other events happening that day. But that's just why I'm here, is to invite you all personally, but then also see if we could have a representative from the RDC speak.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Wednesday morning at 10
I
a.m.
will not be available.
I'm out of town, so I can adopt me.
I'm usually out of town on Wednesday, but I can make myself available. I'll just go into the office on another day.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll be talking to you to see exactly what you're looking for.
Yep, I have it all prepared and ready to tell you what we would like you to, not exactly word for word for the topic.
I bet you do.
So it's all good. If you all have any questions leading up to the event, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Barnes and Thornburg creation of new economic development area. I don't think we have a representative from there. Mr. May, if you would help explain.
Yes, and we will
Thank-
rely on Mr. Stephen also. There has been for some time a little bit of casual conversation about creating a downtown attainment area that would help the city through your efforts to make improvements to the downtown and surrounding area. And Barnes and Thornburg has been retained. They were the ones that drafted the proposed resolution, which currently is without a number. And as I understand that resolution, it is basically a legal matter that's a necessary step in a slightly intricate process. One of the things that you were provided and you have there tonight is a schedule for the necessary steps to make this happen. If you all are in favor of advancing this, the desire is for it to be done prior to the end of this calendar year. And the schedule that was laid out is one that can be met by you and the Plan Commission and the Common Council in regular meetings without holding any special meetings. So if you are comfortable to advance this, we stay on schedule. If you are not, then the rest of the schedule is going to domino the wrong direction, and it's going to require some special meetings if it is to be achieved this year. As to the legal situation, Chris, do you have any?
I mean, I've reviewed the resolution. I don't have a problem with any of the language that's in there. I mean, it is a statutory hoop necessary if you want to create a specific area that is going to be, you know, where you can capture those particular funds. You know, we have an overarching, you know, RDC area, but this is a little bit more specific, you know, area. And I would say, you know, I think it meets the statutory requirement of it. I don't know that it's necessarily going to develop 100% through private enterprise, and having the ability to assist in some of that, you know, some of that improvement area would be beneficial. So I believe that's the map, right?
The yellow area is the attainment area. It's where you realize revenue, and the teal area is where you could spend that money, or maybe said slightly different, where the area that would benefit from whatever funds you would spend that came from that source.
The larger teal.
So, and
Yes.
do you mean green area or
It's
yellow?
green in our paper.
I'm sorry, Kate,
Yeah, I think the green is where you would
where the money comes
where
from.
the money comes from,
Okay.
but where you could spend it is that entire area,
Including the green area.
including
Yes.
the green area, yes.
Yeah.
So you can spend it within the green area, but as you would probably note, in that teal area is a lot of a lot of parts of our city where we really could use some assistance.
I know that
That is- I'm sorry.
one of the thoughts on the northeast corner of that teal area is that small park next to the middle school. So if there was a desire to help that little park out, it would be eligible, provided it's in your plan. I guess we'll have to develop a plan, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that's not specifically I mean, there's a spot within the resolution for a plan, but we don't have a specific plan yet. But again, there's a statutory process that goes through development of that plan. The first step is, so essentially, what this resolution is saying, yes, we wanna do it. And then once we say, yes, we wanna do it, then the next step is for it to go to plan where we've said, yes, we wanna do it. And plan says, okay, we also wanna do it, we think the council should do it, we recommend it. Then it goes to the council, and the council says, yep, we agree, let's do it. Then it comes back to the actual nuts and bolts of what the plan looked like. How are we going to utilize these funds? How are they gonna be generated? How are we gonna use them? What are our project lists going to be? What is the plan for the development of that area? So really what you're voting on in this particular resolution is, does this sound like something that this body would be in support of proceeding on? And looking at this area, is this an area where this body thinks that the investment of funds, received could benefit the development?
Chris, we already have a project list in general, but my guess is we need a specific one for this.
Well, so you have a project list for your general, and that's, you're really, like I said, you have this area and you have a project list within this area, but right now your RDC area covers a very large, section. This is more of a microcosm within that actual, so basically you're saying, if I have this big area that I could use, I'm gonna take this little area and I'm gonna create the specific list that I want for this particular area.
But are the funds only captured from the green area that can be used?
Yes, I believe so.
So funds that are captured from our other areas could not?
I don't believe that, unless you modified your project list, which is your overall project list, which is something that you had previously discussed, because you have had several items come off of your project list. So knowing that you are going into a time period where you as a body are going to be looking closely at your project list anyway, I think there are ways you could dovetail your economic plan to give you the ability to utilize funds appropriately.
They're technically captured outside of this area.
Potentially, yes. Now, what I will say is, the folks that drafted this for you are the ones that you guys pay a lot of money to know every single part of this. I know the concepts of it, and I've done it on the last time we did the plan. And I know enough to be able to look at this and tell you that I don't find anything legally wrong with what they've put forth here, and can recommend it if you want to proceed that way. I don't think this is a legally bad document. In terms of figuring out all of the nuances, my general response is, you guys tell me what you want and I'll figure out a way to make the law do it. And that's what we can look into.
In the process of looking at this, I have learned a little nuance to TIF districts. Your current State Road 3 district and State Road 3 expanded districts each have a sunset. And that sunset, I have learned, is based on when you borrowed money for those districts. And I think it's 20 years after you first borrowed money. If you were to run this new one without borrowing money, it will never sunset.
Correct. And that's one of the issues that we run in the overall RDC that currently exists, is there will come a time when it will close. It has to stop. Now, the idea is if there's still development necessary, then you create another TIF. And so this is this is similar to conceptually when we created the residential TIF within your overall TIF. The idea was we're gonna capture different income by doing the residential TIF. And we're gonna develop something that's slightly different than what you guys had on your project list at your time, which was more infrastructure, streets, roads, trails, parks, and you wanted to develop houses. I think this is going to have a slightly different flavor to your economic development plan for that particular area based on what you want to see developed there.
It says it has a 25-year.
After
After you borrow money.
you borrow money.
We don't borrow money, it doesn't sunset.
That clock never starts ticking.
That's,
So if you-
that's my understanding as well. Now, to be realistic, you're probably gonna have to borrow money to develop things in that particular area. Because I don't know, as it sits right now, if you're gonna generate enough income off of that smaller area to develop. But,
Or if you stay with smaller projects as cash is available is the way around that.
which would be the other way.
Robust that project list is.
I'm sorry.
It's gonna depend on how robust that
Yes.
project list is.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's what you're really kind of looking at. Plus, the other part of that is I don't remember exactly when your sunset is on your current.
30 and 36, I
I
think.
see, I thought it was
Right.
30, 36. So the other thing you're gonna do is you're gonna create another point at which you can still, utilize TIF funds. So,
At the very least, it would seem it will keep the redevelopment commission in business.
yeah, I mean, that's why I recommended it. I want you guys to all have a job.
A high-paying job.
Right.
So why was this particular section in green chosen over any other?
I don't know the full answer to that. I do know that the old St. Mary's property has no assessed value today. It still belonged to the church as of the 1st of January.
Which is probably when this was, which is when you were allocated. Plus knowing that the development, I mean, I don't think it doesn't surprise me that it's called the Heritage Hill Economic Development. I mean, the amount of money that they're investing into that is going to substantially increase the value of that property. You're gonna generate income off of just that property going from zero.
There's
to
also
whatever they put
a
in.
piece of property downtown that's currently vacant that hopefully there's a plan to redevelop that. That should greatly increase its assessed valuation.
Which one is that?
The Jobst property, Wooden Bench, people call it, north end of Franklin Street on the east side.
Yeah, I would say, I think that if I had to guess, and I didn't create this, so I am purely speculating from this is why Chris thinks they did it, kind of mentality. You have multiple projects that I am aware of in that area that should, within a relatively short period of time, increase their assessed value substantially to be able to generate funds to utilize in other places.
I believe the old jail is not in the attainment area, or is it?
The old jail,
Yeah,
like where the pods sit now?
yeah.
Yeah, it is
It is
not
not.
in there, which is probably okay, because I think you're gonna end up having,
I think
I
maybe
think the
there's
county
a wait
has-
and see what comes along thinking.
as I say, I think the county has every intention of just letting whoever wants it to eventually have some sort of knife fight on a Saturday to figure out who's gonna end up getting that.
And that is another piece of property that currently has no assessed value because the county owns it.
But given where you're at on that particular, I mean, I know I can look at and see at least 2, if not 3 potential projects that I'm aware of that would increase the value of that within the attainment area relatively.
I believe the thought is that this will not be a large annual money generator, but it can provide a steady stream of income at a much lower level than what you have in your areas currently, but it would allow for routine investment in smaller things in the downtown and around the downtown.
Well, and I would also, I haven't looked specifically, but my guess is this is pretty close to tracking where your historic B1 district is.
It's bigger than that,
It's bigger than
than the downtown historic
I say,
district.
the downtown historic district has, in my just experience as your city attorney, had some developmental issues because of the costs associated with developing within the parameters of the historic buildings. And Main Street Greensburg does a fantastic job of working with people as well as the other
I
organizations.
think it's fair to say that had this been in place, the effort to revive the building on Franklin Street, this could have assisted in that revival.
So I think that's the idea process. I think the idea behind this is let's go ahead and put in place this TIF to give us the opportunity, if we do have projects that are maybe, not capital sufficient or need assistance, that this body can do it. And with a much more specified project plan in this particular area, you don't necessarily have to try and jam it into one of your other general categories that your much larger area requires. So,
Has anybody shown interest in the old wooden bench?
Yes, but they're asking for assistance to make it economically viable.
I thought they were gonna tear that down.
Isn't gossip wonderful stuff, Jamie? There's never been a formal plan that I'm aware of to demolish it. It's always been said that if somebody doesn't do something with it, it may have to happen because the building is currently condemned.
Floor's pretty gone. So,
Yes, it's not habitable. It's not, what's the commercial equivalent of habitable?
I go with habitable, it's an easier word.
Yeah, it's not
Viable.
habitable as is.
Say I use viable if it's a scrap.
Yes. That's a good vague term.
Well, I'm in favor of moving forward with it. I think it's a good idea.
Would you care to make that in form of a motion to adopt the resolution?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Darrell. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ken. We have a motion made and seconded. Any other question or discussion?
I don't know what the formal number is, I think it's your first resolution of the year, so.
We will
We'll put a
sign
number
it when
to
you
it.
say the number, and we'll get that number from Amy and fill it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a debate about whether each board has their own numbering scheme or it's citywide numbering scheme. It gets confusing both ways.
So,
Any further questions? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. While you're there, Mr. May, do you care to talk
Expand?
about the
Yes.
additional appropriation for Fund
So-
4445?
I had sent you all your financial report current as of the end of September. You have a respectable amount of cash available. But when the budget was created a year ago, I think there was a little over $1 million appropriated for you to spend. And currently, your appropriation balance is down around $175,000. There has been some casual conversation about you may have an interest to purchase a property prior to the end of the year. And the conversation was in the neighborhood of a little less than $300,000. And you don't have that much, you have cash, but you don't have that much appropriation. An additional appropriation is a matter for council as an ordinance and takes 2 readings, and it does take 2 readings because it's money. So if you ask for an additional appropriation, you are not spending any money. You're asking to have it made available if you want to use it. So it could go before council on November the 1st and December the 1st for second and final reading. And if you wanted to spend some of that money, you could do that in December. probably a good belt and suspenders kind of a thing.
Should we,
How much we gotta?
yeah, how much? 300,000, 400,000, 500,000? You know, again, we're not spending it, we're just
Right.
playing Mother May I.
Our current cash balance is at 2.2.
Yeah. Actually, it's more than that, Darrell, because there's two other accounts on the end that have another, I forget what those last two funds are.
156,000,
Yeah.
166.80.
And what you likely want to do with that other money, that is money, I believe, left over from the bond, what you used to buy the Scheidler property with. So you probably want to spend that money for the residential subdivision project when there's money owed to the developer. And just,
Reappropriate that?
yes, but that money probably won't be needed until '24. So it's not going to be needed yet this year, so it could be, actually it should be budgeted is the right way to think about it. And we may be far enough along with the budget process. I don't know if we can get it in the '22 budget. It could be done through an additional appropriation though.
So should we ask for additional appropriation of 500,000?
What is our next bond payment?
July or January.
Yes,
January 15th and
250.
closer to 3.
Closer to 3 plus
Yeah.
another 50.
This summer's 280,000.
Yeah. And then you also have a payment due on the residential bond.
That looks like that's about 57,
Sounds right.
58,000.
Those both come due in January. January and July are when you make your bond payments.
We buy that at a property.
We'll have property tax, that should have property tax settlement coming in December.
You ought to be getting $500,000 in December.
Package.
So we should be fine with $500,000.
I'd entertain a motion for that.
I make the motion.
Thank you, Darrell, for,
Second.
and thank you, Ken, for the second. Any questions? So we have a motion to ask for additional appropriation of $500,000. Motion made and seconded. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item is approval of claims. We have a claim from Reedy Financial for August of $2,083.93. 2 invoices from Stephen Legal Group of $358.41 and $60. And then Greensburg Municipal Water and Wastewater wants $1.16 5 times. So if we add all that up, it's $2,508.14.
Oh, for the property we own.
You
Motion.
can appeal next Monday if you want, everybody else does.
It'll be denied, but go ahead.
I'm just curious to approve.
Thank you, Darrell. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie, a second. Those in favor of paying our bills signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That looks like that takes us to the end of our agenda. Our next meeting will be right here on Thursday, November 3rd at 7 o'clock p.m. Any comments, questions? If not, meeting is adjourned. Do you want anybody